Welcome and thank you for tuning in. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis. On the program today, we're going to be talking something about alchemy and heart center. Saint Germain is going to be talked about here on the program. We're going to become familiar with who this person is and the things that it can provide for our lifetimes. Joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program is author, mystic clairaudient, spiritual teacher, and gifted musical composer. He has been a student of the Ascended Masters and the world's major religions for more than 4 decades. He began receiving regular telepathic communications from the Ascended Masters in June 2004, and the next year co-founded the Heart Center movement and community. He has now received more than 4,000 inspired messages from cosmic beings, many of which are freely available on the website, which is heartcenter.org. I'd like to welcome to the Beyond 50 radio program today our guest, David Christopher Lewis. David, thank you for joining us here on the program today.
Thanks, Daniel. I really appreciate it, and all the best to you and all of our listeners today.
Now, tell us about your newest book. It's pretty fascinating what we're going to be talking about here today. It's Saint Germain on Advanced Alchemy. What exactly is that?
Well, alchemy is, as the Master defines it, the science of divine love practically applied. And, you may think of alchemy as changing base metals like lead into gold, and that's a metaphor for our spiritual lives and our deeper inner life. I see alchemy as divine love applied through co-creativity, through work and service to a directed and hopefully very beneficial cause. I think divine love applied with wisdom and understanding involves compassion in action. And divine love applied with the comfort flame of the Holy Spirit really sees the needs of others and acts to alleviate suffering and pain and anguish. So I see alchemy in this truer, higher sense in the age of Aquarius as, yes, the alchemistry of God, utilizing the inner elements of our inner being to process love, light, and the virtues of God in very conscious ways to assist life, to bless life, really to raise people up into a higher awareness, to offer ourselves to the universe in ways that we individually, uniquely can in a very authentic way because we are invested in life and we desire to be a part of this great scheme of all things that we see as our being and the greater beingness of all creatures.
Now, tell us about heart streaming. What's involved there?
Well, this term was given to me by the Master, and I love this term. I'd never heard of this term before. So it's a compound word, heart and stream, and to me it means the emanation of love and any and all of its multifaceted manifestations by grace through our hearts to bless and raise life. It involves assisting others to be who they truly are, and many of us heart stream through meditation, through prayer, through mantras, through movement. If we do Tai Chi or Qigong, we heart stream through giving appreciation, gratitude, and thanksgiving to others in tangible ways. I think we all heart stream by contemplating life and trying to impact things to make the world better with all that we see happening around us. When we laugh, when we smile, when we are cheerful, when we are rosy and sunny and bright. And, we've heard the term brainstorming, and when you think of that, we use our brain and it kind of creates a storm. Well, when we heart stream, we engage our heart, which is this awesome, multifaceted organ and chakra that allows us to be our best, to be our truest, to really fulfill the purpose of life, which is love. So when we are in love, when we express love, when we emanate love, I think we are all heart-streaming. And it's something that in the Aquarian age, dawning, I think all of us will do more of. We'll do it both individually and collectively. When we heartstream with others in a group consciously and direct that stream of light for a specific purpose, we can impact events on the earth. We can transform our planet. We can change the atmosphere, both physically and spiritually. And we can really, when a lot of people meditate on one thing, they can actually impact scientifically results. And this has been proven in studies. So I think that whatever group somebody may be a part of, either a spiritual organization or not, when we work together to heartstream, the effects are powerful, they're tangible, and we all are uplifted by the support of one another as we do this together.
Now, tell us more about Saint Germain and what the message was from this person.
Well, Saint Germain is an ascended being or master who fulfilled his purpose on earth and had many illustrious embodiments. And in his last incarnation upon earth, before he took his ascension, he was Francis Bacon, who many believe was the actual author of the Shakespearean plays. He was known as the Wonder Man of Europe. He returned and he traveled throughout Europe and performed many alchemical feats. He was able to transform diamonds and jewels that were marred and make them perfect. How did he do this? Through love and through his inner understanding of the divine sciences that are part of alchemy. He was Roger Bacon also. He was Joseph, the father of Jesus. He was the prophet Samuel in the Old Testament. Really, he is the spirit of freedom, liberty, and what I would call divine enterprise. And I think the United States of America is really a culture and a nation founded on divine principles of freedom, liberty, justice for all. And even if we see challenges today in what's going on, we know that our nation is special and that we are destined to be an example to the world. Saint Germain really embodies the spirit of what we call the I am race, which if you change those letters around, it spells America. And the I am being the name of God, I am that I am, as shared in the Old Testament, really is a powerful word in the English language. And we say I am, and we say anything after that, we're really saying God in me is, and then hopefully we say something positive. Saint Germain in the late 20s and early 30s released beautiful instruction through an amanuensis named Guy Ballard, which are codified in books of the Saint Germain Foundation, which was centered in Chicago, and now they have a focus in Mount Shasta, California, where I'll be traveling soon. And he really releases up-to-date instruction, spiritual instruction on how we can become enlightened, become more authentically purposeful in our lives in directing our gifts, our talents toward the one cause of eternal freedom of all life. So even though we may live in one particular nation, and Saint Germain has invested a lot of his energy in the United States of America, he really is for world freedom, planetary freedom. And so he works through a number of individuals, very tangibly, who we could call amanuenses or messengers, to deliver his teachings for today that will assist us in making greater progress, both materially and spiritually, in resolving conflict. He is a great tactician and diplomat, and he proved this as the Wonder Man of Europe, traveled all over Europe. He tried to avert the French Revolution and warned various leaders of state that if they continued in their ways of conflict and war, that things would result in a downturn, and he actually warned Napoleon Bonaparte directly in a very tangible way. Well, he didn't heed his warning, and we saw the results. So Saint Germain's message for today, encapsulated in this beautiful book, which the subtitle is Heart's Dreaming in the Aquarian Age, provides a message of hope, of very directed, cutting-edge instruction that can help us to resolve our issues personally and planetarily. And there's a section in the book with 33 questions by disciples that he answered, which are absolutely stupendous, and it's about a third of the book. And then the last part of the book is on alchemical elixirs, 33 of those. And probably my favorite part of the book is the first part with instruction on advanced alchemy, and there are 14 basic messages, and then I reflect on those messages with my own understanding through my own attunement with the Master.
Mm-hmm. Now, I understand this is a volume 1. Will there be a volume 2 on this?
Absolutely. We're working on it. We actually have most of the material already prepared. It's just a matter of editing and gathering the income and supply to print it, because as many people may know, the editing of a major work such as this really costs as much as the printing itself. And it, the first book, the first volume, went through many permutations. It's quite an industrious work to produce a book, and anybody who's done it knows what I mean.
Well, it's certainly an alchemical process, isn't it?
Absolutely. Many, many people were involved. We have 16 beautiful images in the middle of the book by an artist that I found in French Canada named Mario Deguay, and I owned an art gallery for 10 years in Livingston, Montana, and I searched the world for really conscious artists who I thought were out picturing beautiful imagery for the New Age, and I have to say that Mario is one of the 3 or 4 finest in the world, and these images kind of key us into our higher self, to divine frequencies, to the nature kingdom and all of its beauty and glory, and how when we interact with nature, we kind of return to our innate purity and the divine majesty of our true self. So imagery is important in alchemy, just as we have symbols and formulas that most who study alchemy in a very scientific way are aware of. There are a lot of mystical inner symbols within the words, within the images, that kind of key us into higher consciousness and provide an impetus for us to really be kind of tethered to a new spirit of beingness and presence and joy.
Now, as I listen to you share this information, I think we live in a world today that seems very tumultuous. It's troubled and uncertain at times, and we need to really kind of get back to the heart streaming in the center that you're talking about. But a lot of times we tend to reach outside of ourselves to get somebody to tell us how to do this, but inherently we already know how to do this. And it sounds to me like the message of Saint Germain is just that. It's getting back to knowing that you can trust yourself to make the right decisions. And in being able to do that, you can have a certain amount of certainty without the ego getting in the way that you'll be on the right path. And that, to me, seems to be the most important message of this book, Saint Germain on Advanced Alchemy. Would that be about an accurate way to look at this?
Absolutely. You hit it on the head. And I feel that every true master or true teacher always leads us back to the within. Jesus said, the kingdom of God is within you. So if he said that, how many people have really gone within and discerned that to the point where they utilize that inner gnosis, which is kind of knowledge combined with wisdom through personal experience? How many people use that to make progress on a day-to-day basis? So this book really is about us individually making that effort and intuiting by our own attunement what we require to make greater spiritual progress. And like you said, you're not just looking outside of yourself to some outer guru, teacher, priest, rabbi, whoever. They are there as reminders and as goads and coaches and advocates for us. Yet ultimately we have to do the work. We have to apply the principles and the values and the understandings that we learn in alchemy in a very scientific way in our lives in order to have our experiments be positively progressive and victorious. And others can lead us to the water. We have to drink. We have to do the work. And I think a lot of people, unfortunately, rely too much on outer teachers, gurus, etc., and their devotions are important, and yet ultimately they have to become enlightened by self-effort.
You've been doing this for, again, more than 40 years. You've been involved in this work, and it must be sometimes astounding to you for the observation of people who tend to do what you just described. I would rather follow the guru. I would rather worship the guru, idolize the guru. It goes on, and yet take no responsibility for my actions once I step out of that light. And true spirituality, and I've talked with a lot of people who have, I guess, ascended to those levels of even manifesting miracles, it seems like, regularly. And they always tend to say the more spiritual a person becomes, it seems the harder the work and the life seems to be. But at the same time, it's also a situation that becomes more rewarding and blissful. In other words, you can tend to think or say, I would like this in my life, and it becomes immediate. It isn't something you have to wait around for anymore. And that's where you have to begin also being very careful about your thoughts, because you're coming through the heart now. And because these things manifest quicker, that also includes maybe the thoughts that aren't so good that we can tend to have as well. Do you have that kind of experience?
Boy, it sounds like you're my brother,
Well, no, it's fascinating because we live in a world where they've merged a spirituality where people tend to feel that they wave a magic wand and the law of attraction. You hear so much about this. And people always they wonder, well, I'm doing this law of attraction, I'm doing all these exercises I was told to do, and I don't see the attraction happening here. And it's like, really? Well, let's take a look at your life. And did you think this? Well, yeah, I guess I did. I didn't think about that way before. I didn't really want that. Well, yes, you did. You thought that. And you see it happening faster and faster, especially in this day and age. We're told that we're moving out of the fourth and into the fifth dimension, sort of a thing. And so that personal responsibility for every little step that you take, you need to be aware that you're the one taking it, and it's not someone else telling you to do so.
Well, I think the true alchemist takes full accountability and responsibility for his or her life and environment and what transpires around us. And I do believe that we impact all life by our awareness. A lot of people say, well, what you do in private doesn't matter. Well, like in politics, right? It does matter, because even though we don't desire the government to, look into our private lives, none of us desires that, what we do individually through our consciousness 24/7 impacts all life. And we're emanating constantly. In my first book on the aura, it was all about developing a radiant solar aura, and that's the next step in our evolution, is to really become like a sun and be radiant. And through that radiance, we can influence life in a very positive way. Yes, you can turn these teachings around and do black magic if you pervert them. And if you pervert the law of attraction and other things, you can attract all kinds of things into your world. I think Saint Germain's way beyond what kind of the Hollywood type of law of attraction type of mentality about trying to get personal possessions or things or the perfect person in a relationship. It's really about our inner relationship with the divine within ourselves, and we are constantly attracting to ourselves everything by our thoughts, by our feelings, by our consciousness. So we tend to now start being very aware of everything that goes through our mind, our heart, our emotions, and we are so careful because we know how powerful emanations are. And when we are in the mode of being the initiate, we initiate spirals of love and light and virtues of God to all life in a very practical way. And the neat thing about alchemy, it's not some highfalutin science or spiritual concept that's woo-woo. I see it as very, very practical. My wife and I do permaculture. We are definitely invested in getting deep down and dirty in the earth and gardening. And this is alchemy. Everything becomes alchemy when you look at it through the lens of consciousness and awareness. And I think Eckhart Tolle did a great service to this world and planet through the release of his 2 major books. And I take them to heart as very, very awesome releases of teaching that bring us into the eternal now, in the present moment, to make the biggest impact. And Saint Germain kind of illuminates a lot about the now and presence through this book.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty incredible when people like Saint Germain come along and they try to say, look, we're created in the likeness of God, which is that we become co-creators. And then you tend to hear the message out there in mainstream religion that says, we are less than perfect. And I've actually asked the question to people who believe themselves to be very devout in their beliefs. So do you believe God is perfect? Well, yes, I do. Okay. Do you believe God is capable of creating perfection? Yes, God is capable of creating perfection. Then how can you believe that we're imperfect? Now, I'm wondering if you've got an answer to that question, because most of the time, if not all the time, they seem stumped and tongue-tied as to, well, I'm going to rationalize this so that you can see how imperfect you are. I'm thinking that doesn't make any sense.
Well, I grew up Catholic, and it was drummed into us, you're a sinner, you're original sin. And we've moved beyond that now because we realize we were created in the image and likeness, perfect. And a part of us is always perfect, and that's the God within our heart. Mm-hmm. And if we tune into that and realize that and emanate that, then by not focusing on evil or darkness or banality, we raise ourselves up. I kind of live in a world of what I call the non-dual state of unity, consciousness. And I believe that the Buddhists really helped us with this understanding of non-duality in their teachings, because in the center of the circle, there's no drama, there's no reactivity, there's no reaction. And when we remain centered in our hearts, which is like this beautiful circle of our true self, we don't react in a way that creates drama and negativity and what we see at times in the world around us, and we raise our awareness to actually focus so much on that beauty and harmony and purity that becomes our new reality too. So even though there's seemingly drama going on around us in the world with whatever we choose to temporarily put our attention upon, by focusing on light, love, the virtues of God, positive, the awesomeness of the divine, that's what we draw into our world. That's what we become. Where we place our attention, we become. So, we have a choice to either say, I am a son of God, I'm a daughter of God, or I'm a sinner. And I choose the former because I've seen what the mentality and the consciousness of of continuously denigrating ourselves results in. And I don't like that.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's interesting, too, that you bring up the term sin and how that's even been morphed into what it has been today in the religious language. Sin originally, in my understanding, is an ancient Hebrew archery term meaning to miss the mark. So it's easy to say if you get to work and you're late, you've just now sinned because you were supposed to be there at one particular time, but you missed the mark. You know, you thought probably evil deeds towards somebody you would like to have retribution toward. And what we're talking about here today is really changing that within the heart and learning to see that someone that you feel a sense of retribution toward in a way of what gift did they provide to me that has unsettled me in such a way that I need to feel retribution toward this person. That is a sin. Rather than getting the gift, you'd rather have retribution, which for neither of you is going to work out well. Maybe temporarily it might feel pretty good, but in the end you're going to realize you weren't any better than they were when you had acted out your retribution toward them. And you begin to see the idea and the pattern and the reality of sin can be actually changed. You know, we make mistakes. That's a sin. You just made a mistake. You missed the mark. It didn't turn out well. Okay. Well, in knowing this, you realize, as you were saying earlier, is that once you take 100% responsibility for your life and the direction of your life, then I think life actually gets easier. And I also think the other opportunity, too, is that you begin to grow in such a way that when something is good or when something is bad, either way that's going to be okay with you because you're going to learn and know how to manage those aspects and enjoy them as they occur. So it all just becomes experience. And that's kind of an interesting way to live, I would think.
I love that. And, you know, I feel that life is a schoolroom, and really, even though we make mistakes, it's just a learning process. God doesn't condemn us. I mean, we are God in manifestation, and anybody who's had a near-death experience realizes how God is pure love, compassion, and light. And we go through, you know, if you go through the tunnel, you have your life review, whatever, yet there's never condemnation. It's always about learning and growing. So even, you know, you could just say sin is separation from God, or sin is just opportunity to learn more when you do something that kind of trips you up. But God never condemns, and it's just a matter of how quickly we get back to the source and return to our oneness is really the key. Mm-hmm. While I'm talking, I have never seen this on our property. I'm looking out our property. We have almost 6 acres. There are 3 beautiful golden eagles circling right over our property. I've never seen that. So I think that's a symbol.
Oh, sounds like a good one. Now, your website is, for the listeners out there, why don't you go ahead and give your website out there? And I understand that there's a giveaway for our listeners, and there's quite a few of them lined up here. Tell us more about that. Yeah,
heartscenter.org. There's no apostrophe, so it's hearts, plural, center.org. And you can investigate a lot through the links that are on there. We also have St. Germain on advancedalchemy.org, which is the book itself, but you can also get to the book through the major website. And we are giving away 2 copies of the book to people who have just found out about us. A lot of people in the movement already have the book. Please, I'd like you to defer to those who may have just found out about us through your beautiful your webinar and your broadcast today, Beyond 50. And the number to call is 312-253-7600. That's 312-253-7600, and I will sign a copy for 2 of our listeners. And you can call that number between 8 and 4 Pacific time, which is 9 to 5 Mountain Time where I live, and one of our staff will answer, and one of you will be chosen at random amongst, or 2 of you amongst all the people that call in.
And if you practice proper alchemy, you'll probably be the one that attracts that special gift.
Absolutely.
David, thank you so much for joining us here on the program. It's always wonderful to talk about this with people like yourselves that have that sense of being awake and personal responsibility, and not necessarily to walk as the guru, oh, please, young, unknowing one, follow me. In other words, no, why don't you get up, brush off, and we've got work to do.
Right. Well, I appreciate it, Daniel. You sound like a great guy, and I'm looking at your photo from your website as I'm talking and just sending you a lot of love.
Well, I appreciate that. Love back to you as well again, David. Thank you for joining us here on the program today.
Appreciate it much.
We want to thank you, the listeners out there, for tuning in. You can also discover more by visiting us at beyond50radio.com. That is the number 50. And also follow us on Twitter at Beyond50Radio. I'm Daniel Davis. Thank you for tuning in. You've been listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. And remember, live your day past halfway.